What unfolds when a bakery owner, who hasn't donned an apron in years, finds himself immersed in dough and confronting peril? Jackson Granger acquired the bakery chain 8 years ago when it consisted of merely 3 stores and was hemorrhaging money. He transformed it into 10 locations now, generating strong profits and cultivating loyal customers. Yet recently, there was an unsettling feeling in the air. Online reviews highlighted extended wait times, charred pastries, and one that resonated with him: excellent food. However, I witnessed a child almost tumble into the kitchen. It appears rather risky in that area. He inquired with his district manager regarding the matter. It's likely just a singular occurrence, she remarked. We're currently experiencing a shortage of staff. We're handling things. Yet Jackson despised responses that weren't original. It had been years since he had entered one of his stores as an employee. He had yet to meet many of the current staff, as turnover was high and the chain had expanded rapidly. He removed his beard, tinted his hair a muted brown, and acquired a set of chunky glasses to complete the transformation. He enrolled using the alias Jake to begin his training at Store 6, the most bustling location in the city. As he strolled, in that Monday morning, no one seemed to notice. "You the new guy?" the manager Matt asked without looking up from his phone. "Absolutely, Jake, it's the first day, and it's pretty exciting. Throw your belongings in the back and put on an apron. Bridget will give you a tour." Bridget Keller was fully immersed in her work, skillfully rolling dough with her experienced hands, flour dusting the air around her. She glanced up, offered a quick smile, and then returned to her tasks. "Have you ever worked in a bakery before?" "Not really," Jackson said, tying his apron. "You will grasp it quickly. Please keep your distance when the ovens are in use. They emit warmth with the force of a jet engine." He embraced her guidance, mastering the art of dough shaping, the precision of rack stacking, and the intricacies of preparing fillings. She exhibited remarkable patience, moved swiftly, and maintained an unwavering focus on her tasks. Yet there was something unsettling about the atmosphere. The area by the sink was coated in a slippery substance. A heating lamp was secured with duct tape. The door of the walk-in freezer resisted opening unless you gave it a firm tug. On 2 occasions, Jackson observed Bridget using a thin towel to handle a hot tray instead of the appropriate mitts. "Do you have gloves for that?" he inquired. Bridget offered a weary shrug. "We once did. Matt mentioned that we'll receive additional supplies with the upcoming order. That occurred a fortnight ago." At noon, the surge began. Commands shouted from the forefront. Bridget glided with mechanical precision. Jackson struggled to maintain his pace as the kitchen descended into chaos. As Bridget opened one of the ovens, a brief spark flickered. A mere flash that was nothing significant, yet it was enough to make her flinch. "Are you all right?" he inquired. "All right, it occurs." "This oven is quite temperamental," Jackson frowned. "Isn't it time for someone to address this issue? They mentioned that it's not a pressing matter." She cast a quick look at Matt, who was busy cleaning the front register, earbuds nestled in his ears. "He claims that if it still lights up, it remains functional." Later that day, Jackson discovered Matt in the back, absorbed in his phone. "Hey, I've observed that the freezer door is quite stubborn lately. One might find themselves ensnared within those confines." Matt let out an exasperated sigh. "Your purpose here isn't to scrutinize things, my friend. Simply prepare the dough. The freezer is still functioning, correct?" Jackson remained silent. Yet within him a storm was brewing. The following day proved to be even more challenging. A delivery person lost their footing on the slick floor by the rear entrance. No one had laid down a mat. Bridget hurried to assist him in getting back on his feet. "Matt," she called out, "this requires cleaning. It seems inevitable that something will be broken." "Then clean it," Matt said, his gaze fixed elsewhere. "That's not my responsibility." That evening, Jackson found himself on the bus heading home, still clad in his dusty apron, with a dull ache radiating from his back. He had witnessed more than enough. He reflected on Bridget, her unwavering composure in the face of adversity, her willingness to assist those around her, and the way she shouldered the responsibilities of the store with grace. He pondered the malfunctioning freezer, the flicker of the oven, the damp floor, the absent gloves. This was not merely a case of inadequate management. it posed a significant risk. And if nothing shifted, someone was bound to face consequences. On the third morning, Jackson realized that a change was inevitable. He showed up 15 minutes ahead of schedule, eager to witness the entire opening process unfold from beginning to end. The store remained shrouded in darkness as he arrived, yet Bridget was already present, deftly jiggling the front door key with one hand while managing a tote bag brimming with prep sheets in the other. "You're early," she remarked, her weariness evident but not unexpected. "I thought I'd check out how the place comes to life," Jackson responded. "We are open 6 days a week. Matt has decided to forego mornings, claiming they disrupt his sleep routine." She simply acknowledged it, presenting it as a matter-of-fact observation, much like one would about inclement weather. Upon entering, she swiftly navigated the space, toggling switches, monitoring refrigerator temperatures, and initiating the espresso machine. She forged ahead on her own, never seeking assistance, never requesting it. When Matt finally sauntered in, a good 20 minutes late, and casually sipping from a branded cup that unmistakably didn't belong to them, Bridget had already organized the fillings and was well on her way to fine-tuning the ovens. Matt ignored her presence. He set his bag down behind the counter and settled onto a stool by the front register. Jackson remained silent. Instead, he assisted Bridget in organizing the front pastry display. She presented him with a tray of lemon bars, and he observed that her hands bore the marks of red spotted burns, some a testament to time, others freshly acquired. He inquired if I should fetch the tongs. "There's no use, they're warped and they don't hold properly. Have you shared that with anyone?" "2 times, last I heard they're on back order, which likely indicates they overlooked it." A line had already begun to form at the opening. The shop buzzed with activity as familiar faces streamed in quickly. Bridget navigated the space between the espresso machine and the oven with a sense of focused efficiency, while Jackson took charge of the register. Matt remained in his seat, once more flicking through his phone. An elderly woman in a vibrant red jacket leaned over the counter. "Could you please request that someone tidy up the table by the window? It has a tacky quality." Matt kept his gaze fixed ahead. "It will dry," the woman said, blinking. "Apologies, but I mentioned it will dry. It's merely syrup, it happens." Jackson made his entrance. "Allow me a moment, ma'am, and I will handle it for you." As he picked up a cloth and cleaned the table, he cast a quick look at Matt. The man kept his gaze downwards. It was as if the events had passed by unnoticed. Later, in a brief moment of quiet, Jackson positioned himself by the prep sink as a young woman entered for her shift. Her hair was a vibrant shade of orange, adorned with piercings, and she carried a backpack covered in patches. She hesitated upon catching sight of Matt. "You're tardy," he remarked. "My bus was delayed due to an accident ahead, so I called in to inform them. No excuses given. If this happens once more, I will reduce your hours. I have consistently arrived on time since I began. It's irrelevant. I have no use for inconsistency." She moved silently to the rear, donned her gloves, and began preparing the fillings, not uttering a single word. Jackson observed her, his jaw clenched in tension. Her name tag displayed Nina, and he held back until Matt vanished into the office before making his move towards her. "Is everything okay?" he inquired. "Of course it's all good." "Are you really certain?" That appeared to lack fairness. She let out a soft chuckle. "It is what it is. Certain individuals seem to operate under distinct guidelines. Could you clarify what you mean? Observe your surroundings. Do you believe Matt speaks to Bridget like that? Or perhaps Jared? I'm the one who faces reduced hours whenever someone else decides to call out. I'm the one who gets verified when I start my shift." Jackson remained silent, yet the impact was profound. He observed the trend that Nina arrived prepared to tackle her tasks, yet Matt always seemed to find a way to undermine her before she could even begin. After an hour had passed, Bridget took Jackson aside. "One can observe the bags of flour. What about those individuals? They aren't the right type. We utilize flour with a low protein content for the tarts. This batch is packed with protein, and it will compromise the texture." "Who made the order?" "Yesterday I mentioned it to Matt, and he responded that it's close enough." "You can't simply replace it like that. Give him a heads up about it." Jackson made his way to the back room. Matt lounged in the office chair, feet propped up, a half-eaten sandwich resting on the desk. "I need to ask you something," Jackson said, maintaining a steady tone while Matt remained focused on his task, not glancing up. "What comes next?" "The flour is incorrect. Bridget mentioned that you requested the high-protein items. Absolutely, more affordable. And we're not a top-tier establishment, so no one's really going to pay attention." Jackson fixed his gaze on him, however, it transforms the entire offering. At last, Matt raised his gaze. "As you're just starting out, allow me to clarify a few things for you. Consumers are not concerned with the minor differences in protein content per cup. They crave sweetness, richness, and a jolt of energy. They desire it quickly. To thrive in this environment, you must be willing to adjust." Jackson remained silent. He exited the room, his heart racing with increasing intensity. This went beyond mere neglect. It was a systemic issue. Matt showed a lack of regard for the product, the team, and the clientele. On that afternoon, a delivery came in. Jackson assisted Nina in unloading it. The boxes weighed heavily, and the loading dock offered no ramp, only a cracked concrete step that complicated the task of maneuvering carts. As they toiled, Jackson noticed her falter just a bit. "Are you all right?" "Indeed, it has taken a slight turn. This step is quite the ordeal." He cast his gaze downward. The concrete's edge bore the marks of wear, its surface chipped and uneven, presenting a jagged appearance. A disaster poised to unfold. Back inside, Bridget was tidying up the espresso station when it hissed violently. Steam erupted sideways, narrowly avoiding her arm. She recoiled, taken aback. "Oh my," she whispered. Jackson hurried over. "What transpired?" "The pressure valves have been inactive. I have been documenting it. No resolution yet." He didn't inquire whether Matt was aware. He was already aware of the answer. As the clock ticked down to closing time, Jackson had gathered all the insights he needed to reach his conclusion. He lingered until the final patron departed and the shades were pulled down. Bridget diligently scrubbed the trays. Nina meticulously wiped down the tables, while Matt found himself once more ensconced in the office. Jackson strode to the front, loosened his apron, and announced, "Could I get everyone out here for a moment?" Bridget lifted her gaze. Nina hesitated. Matt extended himself from the office. "What is this regarding?" Matt inquired. Jackson removed his glasses. "My name isn't Jake. It's Jackson Granger. This company is mine." The hush fell instantly. Bridget's eyes grew wide with surprise. Nina stood still, her breath caught in her throat. Matt blinked twice, then let out a brief, incredulous laugh. "Are you serious?" "I am not. I have spent 3 days working here. I've observed enough to understand that this store operates in a manner that endangers individuals. That stops here." Matt advanced, his face turning a deep shade of red. "Listen, if this concerns the flour," Jackson interrupted him, "this concerns the way you interact with others. Regarding your disregard for safety, your choice to substitute ingredients, and your tendency to overlook legitimate concerns. Your conversation with a team member lacked respect. A harmful atmosphere has been established. Your time here has come to an end, in effect right away." Matt's mouth parted, then fell shut. He refrained from arguing further. He pivoted and vanished into the rear chamber. Jackson glanced at Nina. "It was completely unacceptable for you to be addressed in that manner." "That was simply not acceptable." She cast her gaze downward, hesitating to find the right words. "And Bridget," he went on, "I must extend my sincerest apologies to you. This place has been held together by sheer determination and makeshift solutions. That responsibility belongs to me, and I let you down." She paused before responding, then nodded with deliberation. "Thanks a lot." Jackson cast his gaze upon the two of them. "Tomorrow this store will be closing for a comprehensive audit. Resources, personnel, security, your compensation remains intact. A team will be assembled to address the issues at hand, and we shall execute it flawlessly." There was no applause. They did not succumb to a sense of relief. They remained silent, absorbing the moment, for when one has endured turmoil for an extended period, the arrival of calmness doesn't evoke a sense of joy. It feels like a deep sigh finally set free. The following morning, Jackson made his way to Store 6 ahead of the dawn. A locksmith was diligently engaged with the front door lock, meticulously replacing the worn latch. Jackson offered a subtle nod of acknowledgement before entering the room. The atmosphere seemed to chill more than it had the previous day, not only in temperature, but in tone, as if it were suspended in anticipation. At 7, Bridget and Nina made their entrance. Neither had donned their aprons just yet. They halted in their tracks upon spotting him by the espresso counter, clipboard clutched firmly in his grasp. Jackson lifted his gaze. "We're not open today, but I would like you both to be present as we review everything. Your time will be compensated, and I value your insights." Bridget tucked her tote bag beneath the prep table. "Will this be another one of those corporate audits where we identify issues only for them to vanish into a spreadsheet?" "No," Jackson replied. "This tale begins with a wrench and concludes with the arrival of a new manager." Nina folded her arms across her chest. "And if the company sends another Matt in a fresh shirt, he won't stick around for long. Not any longer." A facilities contractor arrived next, accompanied by 2 safety compliance officers that Jackson had requested from headquarters. They set out to record the equipment problems, beginning with the steam valve that Bridget had just managed to evade the previous day. The technician scrutinized it carefully before shifting his attention to Jackson. "This unit needs to be replaced, not merely repaired. The internal pressure regulator has been altered." "Altered?" Jackson inquired. "It appears that the safety shutoff has been turned off." Nina lingered behind him, her arms remaining crossed. Matt expressed that the shutdowns were frustrating and caused delays in drink orders. Jackson remained silent. He gave a brief nod, jotted down a note on the clipboard, and continued on his way. It required almost 3 hours to navigate the kitchen. The lamp, bound with duct tape, has been taken away. A keyed, fresh one has been ordered. The damaged concrete loading step was designated for replacement. The freezer door underwent testing, was documented thoroughly, and is now slated for replacement with a pressure release handle. Jackson ventured outside for a moment to answer a call from the head of HR. She confirmed that Matt's termination paperwork has been processed. "Has anything else arisen?" Jackson stated that he disabled a safety valve. "Place that in the document." Within the confines of the kitchen, Bridget was demonstrating the oven controls to the safety inspectors. Nina was meticulously going over the shift logs with an assistant manager who had come from another location to lend a hand during the store's closure. Jackson held off until lunchtime to bring the team together in the break area. The familiar hum of timers and the sound of espresso shots were nowhere to be found. The stillness weighed more heavily now. "There is much that needs to be addressed," he started. "It's beyond my initial expectations, yet my purpose isn't merely to fill gaps and move on. Today marks a shift." Bridget inclined her body ever so slightly. "Is staffing part of that?" "It must," Jackson stated. "I examined the schedules. You've been putting in 6 days of work each week. Nina has been handling late shifts by herself." Nina glanced up, expressing concern. "That's not sustainable." "That's been our sentiment for some time now." "I understand," Jackson replied. "We are bringing on board 2 new team members beginning next week. Emergency budget increases for Store 6 have been approved for the next 60 days. "I want you both involved in the interview process," Bridget said, her eyes wide with surprise. "We are selecting our own collaborators. You will be the ones collaborating with them. It's important to recognize the right fit." Nina offered a slight nod, remaining silent. Jackson pressed on. "There is additional information to consider. I have made a change in the leadership for this region by reassigning the district manager. She failed to recognize these issues and overlooked them. A new individual will be introduced next week, and she has been directed to engage with every store team face-to-face, not solely the managers." Bridget glanced at her notes. "What are the updates regarding the product?" Jackson shifted his gaze to the preparation area. "We are bringing back the authentic ingredients. The bulk flour orders that Matt arranged have been cancelled. Today marks the reintroduction of quality controls." Nina advanced with purpose. "May I pose a question?" "Proceed. What took you so long to get here? Injuries were occurring. We aimed to convey a message. Jackson remained direct, as I ceased to perceive with my own vision. I depended on data and statistics rather than visiting the store in person. That stops here. The door creaked open, revealing a young man clad in a navy shirt, stepping inside with a hint of hesitation. Jackson identified him as one of the local trainers. He gestured for him to come closer. "This is Theo," Jackson said. "He will assist with the team's retraining when the store is back in operation. He's not here to give a speech. He has come to understand your true requirements." Theo offered a subtle wave. "I would like to observe your methods and understand what is effective, and then we can develop from there." Bridget arched an eyebrow. "We are not the issue. We have merely been enduring." Theo acknowledged this with a nod. "I aim to transform that into something enduring." As the sun began to dip in the sky, the new oven was being brought in on wheels. The previous unit had been unplugged and removed, exposing a charred mark on the wall behind it. A safety inspector made a discreet observation before passing a sheet to Jackson. If this had lingered for another month, a fire would have ensued. Jackson remained silent. He completed the form and returned it outside. Workers commenced the process of pouring fresh concrete for the loading step. The back alley of the store was sealed off, with deliveries halted until the task was finished. Within the confines of the room, Jackson discreetly guided Bridget to a quieter corner. "You've been shouldering an excessive burden," he remarked. "This is where it stops. It's impossible to resolve everything in a single day. I'm not attempting to persuade you, but I need you to take 2 paid days off, beginning tomorrow. And this is non-negotiable." She paused. "And if we lag, I'll be right here. Theo will too. Additionally, 2 team members from Store 4 will be joining us to assist. You've truly deserved a moment to unwind." She averted her gaze for a moment, then gave a single nod. Jackson shifted his gaze to Nina next. "You have sufficient hours to be eligible for complete benefits. That ought to have been taken care of weeks ago." "I've expedited it," she whispered. "Are you really serious? Be sure to check your email this evening." As the sun dipped below the horizon, the store was infused with a subtle aroma of fresh paint. The walls gleamed from a thorough scrubbing, and the ductwork was spotless. The break room was freshly stocked with all the necessary supplies. A newly installed first aid kit is now positioned near the sink, ensuring it is visible, easily accessible, and completely stocked. Jackson lingered by the front counter, observing. The team wrapped things up. He felt no sense of pride, not at this moment. The harm remained, yet the flow had ceased. Bridget emerged from the back room, coat clutched in her hand. "Are you actually going to be here tomorrow? Jackson mentioned that he would be on prep at 6. You will not be. You're familiar with the technique for measuring raspberry filling. So I will have done so by then." She offered a brief nod before exiting in silence. Theo walked over, clutching his notebook tightly. "I'm aware that there's still much ahead of us. However, they no longer feel fear." Jackson gazed at the vacant floor. They never should have been there to begin with. By Friday morning, the difference was unmistakable. The storefront remained secured for renovations, yet the interior thrummed with a subdued, concentrated activity. Jackson positioned himself by the prep table, sleeves rolled up, meticulously crafting tart crusts alongside Theo. The new oven radiated a consistent, uniform warmth. Silence reigns, and the light remains steady. Only a steady embrace of warmth and the subtle aroma of butter linger in the air. In the back, Jared from Store 4 was diligently restocking dry goods, while Lacey, another team member, focused on reviewing the updated sanitation log on the tablet. Both had offered their help for the weekend. Bridget was away as directed, and Nina was scheduled for the late shift today. The new rotating schedule, which Jackson meticulously drafted, was standardized, balanced, and thoroughly reviewed by the staff prior to its implementation. Theo dried, his hands on a towel, leaning in a bit closer to Jackson. This morning she forgot her binder on the counter. Even on her day off, she is diligently mapping out workflows for next week's prep schedule. Jackson continued to roll out the dough. That is Bridget. She pushes ahead, demonstrating her skills, but she won't endure without some support. We shall. The job postings were published last night. I have sent 3 candidates to HR already. They will undergo screening by Monday. Theo gave a slight nod and approached the sink. Jackson brushed off his hands and glanced at the clock. Nina is set to arrive in 20 minutes. Upon her entrance, there was a distinct shift in her demeanor, still calm yet increasingly aware. With a subtle nod to Theo, she made her way to the back to put away her bag. Jackson encountered her by the storage shelves. This weekend, the security cameras will undergo upgrades, he mentioned. Fresh perspectives, enhanced insights. Eliminate any hidden areas around the freezer or back door. She examined him intently. Does that include audio? No, just video, but it will provide a clearer understanding of the situation if anything goes. Sarai, if someone is skimping on quality once more, we won't rely on hearsay. With a determined gesture, she slipped on her gloves and secured her apron tightly around her waist. You mentioned you would make things right. This is the first time. I truly felt someone was sincere. He stated that beliefs are earned. I will continue to earn it. By mid-afternoon, the team had successfully wrapped up a comprehensive simulation run preparation, baking, and mock service. There are no customers at this moment, but the entire workflow has undergone a complete redesign. Reduced collisions, enhanced visibility at intersections, and safety indicators prominently positioned. The loading dock step was finished, and the revised equipment list was displayed on the wall, detailing anticipated delivery timelines and maintenance plans. At 4 o'clock, Jackson summoned everyone to the front area. Bridget made a brief unofficial return to drop off a notebook she claimed she had forgotten. She lingered at the periphery, arms crossed, observing intently. Jackson cleared his throat, preparing to speak. The store will be back in business on Monday. Fresh personnel, elevated benchmarks, and enhanced supervision. However, beyond that, we are relaunching with a shift in our cultural approach. Safety is a must, respect is a given, and leadership cannot be claimed while concealing behind a title. Jared rested against the counter. Additional places require this as well. They will understand, Jackson stated. Beginning next week, a comprehensive audit will be implemented across the entire chain, and I will personally oversee it. I will be present. Lacey lifted her hand just a bit. Could we discuss the compensation framework as well? I've observed team leads at various stores performing managerial tasks without receiving the appropriate title or compensation. Jackson gave a slight nod. That's scheduled for discussion. We are redefining positions and establishing transparent pathways for progression. Seek clarity regarding responsibilities and recognition of contributions. At last, Bridget found her voice. And if the next manager becomes another Matt, they won't, Jackson remarked, as they will undergo evaluations by their teams on a quarterly basis. Unidentified, raw, and essential. If they fail to guide effectively, their tenure will be short-lived. Theo cast a glance in Bridget's direction. Have you ever considered taking on that role? She gently shook her head. I appreciate the flaw and the work involved, but I'm prepared to train anyone who takes it on. Jackson advanced with purpose. I would like you to take on the role of the store's operations coordinator. This is not a management role. It is a position focused on technical leadership. Your benchmark is established, and the future manager will depend on your knowledge and skills. Bridget took a moment to reflect. What if I decline? We will explore alternative ways to assist you, but I want you to understand that the choice is yours. She cast a glance at the team before turning her gaze back to him. I will give it a shot, but I'm not looking after another desk-bound taskmaster. Nina adjusted the new prep gloves, a hint of certainty in her voice. You won't be. We're set to reopen on Monday, Jackson announced, and this time we're doing it properly. She glanced at the espresso machine, then I'll be here early. I wish to verify the new calibration personally. Jackson smiled faintly, speaking as one who understands the gravity of the situation. As the evening wore on and the team began to disperse, Jackson lingered in the shadows. He paced the floor deliberately, inspecting the new safety mats, the emergency exits, the updated signage. All was more pristine, more distinct. He entered the walk-in freezer, shut the door firmly behind him, and checked the pressure release handle. It was effortless to open, Outside, the city buzzed with its familiar end-of-week flurry. The bakery exuded a serene stillness, poised for a fresh start. He left the lights on as he locked the door, not due to anyone remaining inside, but because come Monday morning, they wouldn't be beginning anew. They would be progressing, united.